Today, we are looking back at a case from the 1930s that took place in England. Vera Isabel Page was born on the 13th of April 1921 in Hammersmith, which was a district within West London. She was the only child of Charles Page and Isabel Page, a working-class couple who lived modestly and worked hard to support their household. Charles Page was employed as a carriage painter for the Great Western Railways, a skilled but physically demanding job that provided the family with a steady income. Isabel Page remained at home, managing the household and caring for their daughter. By all accounts, the family lived quietly and kept largely to themselves. In 1926, Vera began attending a local primary school in Notting Hill. The school was typical of the area, serving children from nearby streets and terraces. Vera was described by teachers as shy and reserved, but she was well-liked and known for her polite manner and pleasant disposition. Although quiet, she had friends and was considered a good-natured child. At times, Charles and Isabel took in lodgers to supplement their income. These lodgers were usually relatives or trusted acquaintances. In January 1931, the family moved from Chapel Road in Notting Hill to a three-story house at 22 Blenheim Crescent. The Pages occupied the ground floor and basement, while the upper floors were rented to other residents, including long-standing tenants Arthur and Annie Rush. Despite the economic difficulties of the period, Charles Page remained in regular employment. Vera Page, who was 10 years old at the time, left her family home on Monday, the 14th of December, 1931. It was around 4:30 in the afternoon when she set out from 22 Blenheim Crescent. She was on foot and alone, heading a short distance along the same street to the home of her Aunt Minnie, who lived at number 70, approximately 350 yards away. The reason for the visit was straightforward. The day before, Vera had left 2 swimming certificates at her aunt's house and had returned to collect them. According to Minnie, Vera arrived as expected and retrieved the certificates without any difficulty. The visit was brief and uneventful. Minnie later told police that Vera left the house at around 4:45 p.m. Before going, Vera explained that she needed to be back home in time for dinner. She was carrying an envelope containing the swimming certificates when she left and turned back in the direction of Blenheim Crescent. At that time, it was common for children of Vera's age to run short errands alone, particularly in streets they knew well. The walk was familiar and close to home, and there was nothing about her departure that caused concern. She turned back in the direction of her home on Blenheim Crescent while carrying her swimming certificates. It was supposed to be a short walk that she had made many times before and was expected home in time for the evening meal. Vera was expected home by around 5:30 p.m., but as that time passed, she did not arrive. At first, there was little immediate alarm. The errand was a short one, and she had left with the intention of returning promptly. As the minutes went by, concern began to take hold inside the Page household. Charles Page decided to retrace his daughter's steps. He walked along Blenheim Crescent to number 70 to speak with Minnie, hoping that Vera might still be there. Minnie told him that Vera had already collected the certificates and left earlier, shortly before 5 o'clock. Charles then began searching the surrounding streets. He knocked on doors, spoke with neighbors, and asked anyone he encountered if they had seen his daughter. Friends and nearby residents joined in, and the search widened as the early evening passed. Despite their efforts, there was no sign of Vera and no information to explain her absence. As the hours continued without news, Charles Page's concern deepened. By 10:25 p.m., he went to Notting Hill Police Station, where he formally reported his daughter missing. After leaving the station, he resumed searching through the night. Isabel Page remained at home, waiting for word. By the following morning, Vera had still not returned. Charles and Isabel Page were now faced with the reality that their daughter had been missing throughout the night. There had been no word and no indication of where she might be. Police action increased as daylight returned. officers circulated a description of Vera to local patrols, and details of her disappearance began to appear in the press. Awareness spread quickly through the surrounding streets, and members of the public were urged to come forward with any information. During the course of their inquiries, police received a statement from a boy named Charles Hewitt. He told officers that he knew Vera quite well and said that he had seen her sometime between 5 and 6 o'clock on the previous evening. Another statement came from a schoolmate, Irene Stegman. She told police that she had spoken with Vera outside Taylor's Chemist at the junction of Blenheim Crescent and Portobello Road. According to Irene, Vera mentioned that she intended to buy soap dominoes that were displayed in the shop window as a Christmas present for her parents. Irene also confirmed that Vera was carrying an envelope containing her swimming certificates. After their brief conversation, Irene left to go home, while Vera stayed by the chemist window. At this point, despite continued efforts, police were unable to find anyone who could confirm seeing her after that point. As the investigation continued, police received further information from members of the public, though none of it could be confirmed. One report came from a sailor who told officers that he believed he had seen a girl matching Vera's description outside a shop at around 6:30 p.m. He said the girl was in the company of a man and a woman. No additional details were provided that allowed police to verify the sighting. Another statement was given by a man named Robert Riches. He claimed that at approximately 8:45 p.m. he had seen Vera on Montpelier Road, walking in the direction of Lansdowne Crescent. Riches said that the girl was swinging a red beret and that when he looked back, she had disappeared from view. He added that he believed she may have turned into Lansdowne Road. Riches was known to the police, and they did not consider him to be a reliable witness. Officers were unable to confirm that either report involved Vera Page. Despite this, the search for further information continued. On Wednesday, the 16th of December, the search for Vera Page was still ongoing. That morning, routine milk deliveries were taking place across the area. Joseph Smith, a milkman, was on his second round when he entered Addison Road in Kensington. At number 89, a large and affluent property set back from the street, his attention was drawn to the front garden. Among the foliage, he noticed what appeared to be the body of a child. He stopped and looked more closely, confirming that a young girl was lying there. Smith went first to inform the house cook, then left the property to find a police officer. Officers arrived shortly afterwards and secured the scene. The body was identified as that of a young girl, later confirmed to be Vera Page. It was immediately apparent that little effort had been made to conceal her. Only a small amount of earth and leaves had been scattered loosely over her body. As officers examined the position in which she had been left, they noted a section of finger bandage tightly lodged against the inner elbow of her right arm. The bandage was worn and stained, and it was later noted to carry a strong smell of ammonia. With these initial observations recorded, the area was preserved for further examination, and arrangements were made for a medical assessment at the scene. The initial medical examination was carried out at the scene by the divisional police surgeon, Dr. William Kirkwood. Based on the time that Vera had last been seen, he would have expected to find her body showing signs of rigor mortis. Instead, this was not the case. He observed that the body displayed signs of advanced decomposition. Dr. Kirkwood concluded that this was inconsistent with a body that had been left outdoors for an extended period during the prevailing conditions. He noted that there had been heavy rainfall between 3 and 9 p.m. the previous day, leaving the atmosphere damp and misty. Despite this, Vera's clothing showed very little sign of moisture. Areas where her body had come into contact with the soil were also largely dry. These observations led Dr. Kirkwood to conclude that the body could not have been left exposed in the front garden for long. Further statements supported this view. The woman living at the property told police that if the body had been there earlier in the morning, it would have been impossible for it not to have been seen. Joseph Smith also confirmed that he had delivered milk to the house at around 5:30 a.m. and stated that the body was not present at that time. Taking these accounts into consideration, police concluded that Vera's body had been placed in the garden no more than 2 hours before it was discovered. A post-mortem examination was carried out by Sir Bernard Spilsbury. His findings established that Vera Page had been sexually assaulted and that the cause of death was strangulation. Marks were present across her throat, and cord marks were also observed. Sir Bernard was of the opinion that these cord marks had been made after death. Based on the condition of the body and the known timeline, he estimated that Vera had died shortly after she was last seen alive. He further concluded that she had been dead for more than 24 hours by the time her body was discovered at Addison Road. Additional physical evidence was recorded during the examination. Coal dust was found on Vera's face, and candle wax was present on her right shoulder. These findings were considered significant. Sir Bernard stated that they were consistent with the body having been kept in a coal cellar or a similar dark basement space. It was noted that such an area would likely have been without electric lighting, requiring the use of a candle. The post-mortem findings supported the conclusion that Vera's body had been stored elsewhere for a period of time before being moved and left in the front garden at Addison Road, where it was ultimately found. With the findings from the scene and the post-mortem examination recorded, the investigation was expanded. Overall responsibility was placed with Superintendent George Cornish, who was assisted by Superintendent Nichols and Detective Inspector Mallet. Police began a systematic program of door-to-door inquiries. Officers canvassed the streets around Blenheim Crescent, where Vera had last been seen, as well as the area surrounding Addison Road, where her body had been found. These inquiries were carried out repeatedly as new information emerged.
Appeals were also made through the media. Members of the public were asked to come forward with any information that might assist the investigation, no matter how minor it appeared. As a result, the scale of the inquiry grew rapidly. In total, more than 1,000 individuals were formally questioned, and police collected several thousand witness statements. As the investigation progressed, a working theory developed. Given Vera's age and disposition, officers believed that she may have been approached by someone she knew and trusted. It was also believed that her body had been moved and placed at Addison Road at or near dawn on the 16th of December. During this movement, investigators theorized that the ammonia-stained finger bandage may have been accidentally dislodged and left with the body. As inquiries continued, police began receiving information about objects that had been found in the area. Margaret Key came forward with a statement describing an incident she had witnessed early on the morning Vera's body was discovered. At around 6:40 a.m., she said she had seen a man pushing a wheelbarrow along the street. The wheelbarrow was carrying a large bundle which was wrapped in a red tablecloth with a knitted fringe. She observed the man moving in the direction of Addison Road. The following day, on the 17th of December, a woman named Kathleen Shorts attended Notting Hill Police Station. She brought with her a child's red beret, which she said she had found outside her house at around 9:30 p.m. on the previous evening. Shorts also mentioned that she had come across torn paper and a piece of candle nearby, which she said she had picked up and discarded. The beret was shown to Charles and Isabel Page, who identified it as belonging to their daughter. It was noted that the beret smelled strongly of paraffin, something Charles Page stated had not been present before. Next door to Shorts's house, police found an empty coal cellar. Its door was unlocked, despite residents saying it had previously always been secured. 2 women later reported hearing screams on the night Vera went missing. After conducting experiments, police concluded that the screams could not have come from the coal cellar. As the investigation progressed, police attention came to focus on a man named Percy Orlando Rush. Percy was 41 years old, married, and lived close to Blenheim Crescent. He was employed as a flannel washer at a laundry in Earl's Court, where he had worked for the past 2 years. Although he and his wife had moved to Talbot Road in 1925, Percy continued to visit his parents, Arthur and Annie Rush, who lived on the upper floors of 22 Blenheim Crescent. He had his own key to the property. Percy was already known to the police.
He had been arrested, tried, and convicted in 1923 and again in 1927 for indecent exposure, serving 1 month in prison on each occasion. In the summer of 1931, he was charged with the same offense but was not convicted. On the 18th of December, Percy was brought to Notting Hill Police Station for questioning. He admitted that he knew Vera Page and described her as a nice little girl, but said that he had not seen her for around 3 weeks before her disappearance. During questioning, it emerged that Percy had injured a finger on his left hand. He explained that his work regularly exposed him to ammonia and said that he had initially covered the injury with a homemade bandage, which his wife later replaced. He claimed that the second bandage had been disposed of on the 11th of December. Colleagues at the laundry confirmed that Percy had injured his finger on the 9th of December, though they were unsure whether he wore a bandage on the 14th. Police searched Percy's home in Talbot Road. There they found remnants of a bandage and a red tablecloth with a knitted fringe. Forensic examination also noted candle wax, coal dust, and traces of semen on Percy's overcoat, as well as a pajama string in one of its pockets. Further analysis carried out by Dr. Roach Lynch found that while the bandage discovered on Vera had been soaked in ammonia, its material differed under ultraviolet light from bandage samples taken from Percy's home. The coroner's inquest into the death of Vera Page was opened on the 18th of December, but was adjourned on 2 occasions to allow police to carry out further inquiries. It eventually resumed on the 10th of February 1932 and was presided over by the Westminster coroner, Mr. Ingleby Oddie. The court was heavily attended. Seats inside were quickly filled, and large numbers of people queued outside in the hope of being admitted to hear the evidence. Among those called to give evidence was Isabel Page. She described her daughter as a timid child who was wary of strangers. She told the court that Vera would have recognized Percy Rush, as he regularly visited his parents in the same building where the Page family lived. During her testimony, Isabel Page became distressed and broke down, requiring assistance from her husband. Percy Rush also gave evidence, outlining his movements on the day Vera disappeared. He said that his wife had been absent from their home until the early evening, and that he had gone shopping in Kensington after finishing work. He stated that he returned home at around 8:30 p.m., and that he and his wife retired for the night at approximately 10:15 p.m. He denied visiting his parents that day. In summing up, the coroner outlined the circumstantial evidence, including the beret, the candle, the coal dust, and the presence of paraffin. He emphasized that no eyewitness had placed Percy in Vera's company, and that no chemist recalled selling bandages of the type found. Margaret Key was also unable to identify Percy at identity parades. After deliberating for 5 minutes, the jury returned a verdict that Vera Page had been murdered by person or persons unknown to the police.
The verdict was met with an immediate reaction inside the courtroom. As the jury's decision was announced, members of the gallery began to boo. One woman shouted that Percy Rush was a liar as he left the court. The proceedings were brought to a close, but the response from the public was not subdued. Although no one was formally charged, many people believed that Percy Orlando Rush had got away with murder. That belief persisted long after the inquest had ended. Vera's parents were left without a conviction for the death of their daughter. Charles Page died in 1959 at the age of 67. Isabel Page passed away 10 years later, aged 74. Neither lived to see anyone held legally responsible for what had happened. Percy Rush was never again brought before the courts in connection with the case, and he was not convicted of any further offenses. He died from natural causes in 1961. The murder of Vera Page has never been solved. No one has ever been formally charged, and the case remains unresolved. As with many cases from this period, the official record ends there.
whether Percy Rush was responsible for the death of Vera Page, or whether the coroner's jury reached the correct decision based on the evidence before them, remains a matter of debate. Vera Page was not remembered for anything she did wrong, but for the life that was taken from her. She was a child who left home on a short, familiar errand and never returned to the ordinary life that should have followed. No court ever delivered a conviction for her death, and no verdict ever named a person responsible. What remained was a family who lived out their lives without answers and with sorrows. Vera's life ended without justice, and it is that absence of justice that continues to define her story. If you have thoughts about this case, you're welcome to share them in the comments. And if you value careful historical documentaries like this one, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel.